Good evening, everybody. This is Jeff Williams from Veterans United Against Suicide. This is the fifth video on the Falklands. Just a little sort of prelude before we start. I had a conversation with an Argentinian guy that had seen the previous ones, and he was very complimentary, but he was also, just amazing when you see the other side of the coin and how they portrayed the situation. So I thought I'd talk about the Argentinians, just to stir the pot even more. Hopefully I won't be guilty of a national incident, but obviously on the way down, as in any conflict, there's the enemy, and there's you, the good guys normally. Always, actually, I shouldn't say normally, that's terrible. We're the good guys, we wouldn't be there. Anyway, I think it was when we took Mount Kent. There was an awful lot of prisoners on the top of that, and they surrendered, and we started getting them organised. Not me personally, but certainly guys senior to me. Davey Robb could tell you more about that. But we got them down the hill anyway. And I remember seeing this young lad, and he's only about 18, an Argentinian guy. His hat was too big. He had about 10 layers of clothes on, looked like a Michelin man. And he was crying, he was really upset. So one of the sergeants pulled him to one side, and I was privy to the conversation. And he was asking me if he was okay. He said he was very scared. He spoke really good English, unbelievably good English. So they sat him down, and one of the guys gave him some water out of his flask and started chatting to him. I think he gave him some nutty, some chocolate, and he sat there and he smiled, and he said, what did he say now? He started talking about football, believe it or not. And he wanted to know whether the sergeant was a Manchester United supporter. No, he said, do you know Manchester United? And the sergeant said, yeah, I do, yeah. He said, great football team. Love Bobby Charlton. And we went, yeah, he was a great player, wasn't he? And he said to me, who do you support? I said, Birmingham City. He said, who are they? I nearly bloody hit him with a butt of a rifle, I tell you. No, never. He was a lovely little kid. And he looked absolutely exhausted. He had a mum and a dad somewhere waiting for him to come home. He didn't look old enough to be there. But he told us a little story once he calmed down. We had him for about half an hour or so chatting to him. And he was really, really good. I can't remember his name now, Jose or something like that. And he was fantastic. And he told us about how he had been at a military school, and the junta, whatever it was in charge at the time. A load of lorries come down, troop carriers, and he was actually at school. Oh, well, it's like a college, not a school. And apparently what happened was, so he said, and I can't verify this, but maybe the Argentinian guy will tell me more about it, but, they grabbed hold of him. And he was like a reservist type thing, I suppose, conscript thingy. And they just took them to the airport, boarded a plane. Next thing you know, they landed in Maldives, in the Falklands, and Maldives. I can't remember what the Argentine called them now, Maldives or something. Anyway, so he's chatting away to him, and he's telling us all about this. And he said, yeah, when we got there, he said, they just stuck on a plane. So before we got on the plane, he said we had to go into this hangar. He said, and the hangar was about 100 metres long. And all the way along the hangar was a table, like tables all one after another, all the way straight down. And behind each table was a bloke, a regular bloke, and like the quartermaster's team basically. And he went up to the first table. They said, sign here. Signed his name, that, and said, right, there's your boots, there's your socks, next table. And they went all the way along and completely equipped them with brand spanking new stuff. And it was like, you know, yeah, you're a size 12 or whatever, and that's what you got. Now, I think that's true, because I'll tell you why. As I've already said, our kit was rubbish, to say the least, and they changed it after the Falklands, to be fair. And when we were clearing vacated trenches, there were kit bags in there. And I remember opening one of the kit bags, and as I went to open it, somebody said, don't open that. I said, why? It might be booby trapped. So we checked it first. It was okay. It was just like a seaman's kit bag. And in there was 2 brand new shirts, which were better than the ones that we had. And everything was in plastic bags, all sealed as if you get it from the shops. It was unbelievable. I said, look at this, guys. Look at that shirt. Blood, give it here. Took my Angola shirt off and put this one on. You know, it was just amazing. The boots they had were fantastic. They're like para boots, brown they were. Very similar to what the guys wear now. So that was interesting. But again, so he told us all about that. Then he told us about what had worn them down was the constant naval bombardment and the artillery, who were constantly firing on their positions, especially on the top of Mount Kent and stuff like that. Mount Harriet as well. And all Two Sisters and Tumbledown, and they all got a battering before we actually went in. But he was moaning about it. He said, all I remember every night is bomb, 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 bomb. They kept going like that. And I said, God. I said, you're moaning, mate. I said, they're right next to my bleed. It went up my trench, the battery were. And they were yeah, I can agree with you. They were constantly firing all night. It was absolutely ridiculous. But it was a softening up process. And it did the job because it kept the Argentinians awake. So they were more fatigued. And then when we did attack them, they didn't have a stomach for the fight. I think the only, might be unfair here, but I mean, Goose Green was unbelievable what the Paras did there. And something else that people don't know about is, if you know anything about military tactics, you'll know that we work to a 3-to-1 basis. So, for example, you know, a company of guys would take on a troop, or, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I think every single assault we did, that was thrown out the window, because we couldn't. I mean, I don't know how many people were on the top of Mount Kent. I think there was about 300 or something like that, maybe more, maybe 600. You know, it was a horrendous amount of people. And again, when the Paras took the guys down at Goose Green, it took a lot of casualties. But, you know, they were fighting a dug-in force that had been there for a while. So there was all that to go contend with. And then he went on about how his officers, and this is gonna shock a lot of people, to be honest with you. This is what the guy said, and we talked about it a lot afterwards, the guys. We thought it was hilarious, to be fair. He told us that his officers had told him that commandos, i.e. us, once we captured somebody, we ate them. That's what he said. I said, nah, mate. Nah, it just doesn't happen. He was shocked. And the other thing that he said was that his officers had said that there was minefields behind their positions, and if they ran away, they'd run over the minefields and be killed. And apparently that did happen as well. And the other thing was, of course, they would shoot them if they ran away. They'd fire on them. So, you know, war's mucky. And I'm going to finish with one thing that I said to this guy. I said, don't compare, mate, because my very good friend was killed um, in a helicopter. And again, you know, I remember the story really, really well because I say it was close to my heart. It broke my heart at the time, to be fair, that he got killed so quickly. I mentioned it in one of the videos. I found his, I actually saw his body bag, and his name was Sergeant Evans, and he was in the two Gazelles that got hit day one. Now, I know for a fact that they were shot in the water. The helicopter had crashed in the water. There were no threat to anybody. They were swimming ashore, and they got victualled up by machine guns, and that's a fact. And Taff managed to get, I don't know how many times he was hit, but he managed to get into the side of the water, and a Falklands lady, because this was all in the paper, I remember reading it, a Falklands lady went to his aid, and when she pulled him out, he was virtually dead. It was freezing cold because the water was freezing anyway, and he had all these bullet holes in him where they'd shot him, and he was hallucinating. And I say it really upsets me, so please get your handkerchiefs ready. He started hallucinating, and he thought that this lady who was pulling him out of the water was his wife, and he told her things. Now, a long time, and then Taft died. Now, it's my understanding, I think it was one of the Sunday papers, News of the World, I think it was. They united Taft's wife with this lady, and what came out was really sad. Apparently, she had said, the Falkland Island lady had said, I'm not telling anybody what was said, only his wife, because it was for her ears only. And apparently his last dying thoughts were of his wife and his children. He had 2 children, if I remember rightly, and they were gorgeous, because they used to live next door to me in Deal. And when Taff was dying, he looked into this lady's eyes and said, I love you, and I love the kids, and I'm so sorry I'm going to leave you. And then he died. And I thought it was pretty crap, really. And I know a lot of the guys, whenever we did anything after that, we used to talk about that before we went in, that they actually shot him in the water when he was, he was just swimming for his life. And they did that. And I don't think anybody got done for it. You know, when I think about how Big Al got persecuted by our people, and I'm sure that the guys that did that didn't get done. But that's war, like I say, it's dirty, it's a filthy thing, and it's horrible. But shooting a guy in the water, I thought was absolutely appalling. Were we good? I think we were. As I say, we treated people with respect. The prisoners were treated well. Nobody was beat up or anything. So it was sad. I would say war is sad. But there's a little bit more about the Argentinian forces. There were 2 types of Argentinian forces that we used to talk about. We used to meet the regulars and the commandos and stuff like that. And I've got to be honest with you, they were good soldiers. And they were up for it. But apparently they had conscripts there. And they were used as cannon fodder. They were the guys that would be put at the front trenches, and then the better guys would be behind. So you think, this is easy, and then all of a sudden you get hit like, a bit like, what's his name now? Colonel of the Paras, Colonel H, wasn't it? H. Jones, yeah, VC. Same sort of thing. You break through the outer lines, you think you're in, and then bang, have some of that. And that happened quite often as well. But again, our British press grabbed hold of it and tried to make out that we're fighting against a ragtag army. They weren't brilliant, but the weather conditions there were horrendous, and they'd been there a long time. And there's lots of stories about that as well. But anyway, rest in peace, Taff. I often think about you, mate, and your wife, and I wonder what she's doing now, and her family, and all the rest of it. And all the guys that we lost, you know, they should never be forgotten. The Argentinians, all their losses, you know, all their parents and families and all that, you know, all that waste of life, all the people on the Belgrano that got sunk, you know, it was awful. All our special forces guys, you know, we lost a load of SAS blokes in a Sea King on a mission. So, you know, it's not a sort of running out of things to say now, really, because I got quite emotional about Taff. And I think of him regular, like I say, as I do all the guys, and all the guys that were injured. You know, 2 guys from my company, I think it was, tread on a mine, walked through a minefield. They put nuisance minefields out. They didn't mark them. They didn't even know where the minefields were themselves. They used to shovel these mines at the back of bloody aircraft, helicopters, and just said, you know, to their troops, that's a no-go area, don't go there. There was no wire to tell you there was a minefield. That's against the ethics of war, surely. But anyway, I've touched a few more topical conversations. So I want to finish there, really, because I don't want to go on too long, because people get bored. But, you know, respect to the guys that fought it. 40 years, memories do not go away. But we must remember the people that we lost. So I respect them. All right, thank you. Look after yourself. Bye-bye. I'll do another one in a couple of days. Thanks.